And welcome to the Postmodern Art Podcast, the podcast dedicated to giving artists who are wowing the world over the platform they deserve. I am your host, Nathan Ragland, and as we appear today on Halloween of 2024, I would like to present to you all a fantastic guest. A guest that has been a part of a lot of our lives growing up that have made our childhoods anything but grim. Today's guest is Maxwell Atoms, an animator, writer, voice actor, and creator of legendary cartoons, including but not limited to The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. This is a guest that I'm genuinely surprised that I was able to get. Like I kind of hinted at with my little intro or whatnot, The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy and a lot of the cartoons that Maxwell had a hand in were cartoons that I more or less grew up on. Cartoons that really inspired my sense of humor, among many other things. So getting the opportunity to talk to him was a truly surreal experience. I think you can kind of tell with the way that I'm talking throughout the episode, but regardless, I feel like this is a fantastic conversation, certainly helped by the appearance of, once again, special guest host, as well as the co-showrunner of this podcast, TipsyJHearts, who, when I told I was having the opportunity to get Maxwell on, instantly jumped at the opportunity. I think she certainly brought a good, fun vibe and energy to what was already a fantastic conversation that I know you all are going to absolutely love. If you enjoy our guest Maxwell, please make sure you support him with the links down in the description below. If you enjoy the podcast, make sure you like, share, subscribe, or follow whatever audio streaming platform you prefer. Leave 5 stars wherever you can. You know, I see that stuff, it genuinely warms my heart. In fact, I want to highly emphasize the subscribing part because if you are new to this podcast, I am currently on the hunt to try to see if I can get 2,500 subs by the end of 2024. If I hit that goal, I will get my first tattoo as designed and decided by you, the audience. So, if you want to be a part of that life-changing alteration, subscribe today. And look, if you want to go a little further with that support, may I recommend you check out the merch shop at fourthwall.com with that link in the description below. We have some fantastic merch as designed by some amazing artists, especially the brand new logo merch as designed by the fantastic Roshan Galaxy, something that you would look fantastic in today. But now, without further ado, please enjoy the Postmodern Art Podcast.
I'm here.
You are here. Yes, indeed. Oh, wait, we got video. There you go. All right. So,
do we want video?
No, we do, especially with what I did. So keep in mind, this episode is going to be releasing on Halloween itself. So I decided to get along with the occasion.
Well, let me get my my sweatshirt. Oh my God! Yeah, let me get my sweatshirt.
How are you doing today, Maxwell?
I'm doing all right.
That's good to hear. You have no idea how excited and nervous I have been to do this conversation. This is something that I've just been like, ever since I realized this was a possibility, I'm like, oh, okay, let's do this.
Me too.
By the way, thank you for taking the opportunity to actually listen to some of the episodes. I heard you said that, and I'm like, oh, that warms my heart a little bit more than anything else.
Yeah, no, they were cool. I always like to know what I'm getting into, so it's always nice when I enjoy the episodes.
I appreciate that. What were some of the guests that you listened to, if I may ask?
I really only did the most recent, like 3 or so.
That's fair. That's extremely valid. I didn't know if how far you searched into it because actually we have a mutual buddy of ours that I've had on the podcast twice at this point. Dave Capdeville.
Oh yeah, I saw he was on there. I didn't listen to his episodes yet. But.
That's fair. No, I have him on twice. One of them just on his own, and the other one for the show that he's writing with Ashley Nichols called Far-Fetched.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw that. I actually saw that he had previously been on one of his podcasts. I think it was like Terror Talks or something along the lines of that. Or
oh yeah, that was 2020, I think.
Yeah, something like that. My, how the times have changed, huh?
Mm.
But sorry, I'm getting way too wordy at this point. Goodness.
No, take your time. I'm here for you.
Good. I appreciate that. Also, I'm waiting for Tipsy to get back. She had to step away for just a quick little second to take care of something super duper quickly. Oh, I think she's about to be back. That works out for me.
Oh, I wasn't muted?
No, you were not muted.
Oh,
You were slightly not muted.
Oh, you bitch.
But we didn't hear.
You showed your face.
You said to.
No, I didn't.
If it makes you feel
I said you can show your face. Now I missed the whole reaction.
You can watch it on the video later. If it makes you feel better, his instant reaction is, let me get my sweatshirt. Where's that sweatshirt?
Oh, screw you.
But regardless, like I said, thank you so much for taking the time to do this once again. It's a big honor for both of us to get a chance to even chat with you. So,
oh, no worries. Yeah.
I'll go ahead and say I have been recording this like sound check real quickly. Are you cool with me including bits of this as part of the conversation as long as I make sure to, if I need to edit anything out, which I don't think there really is much. Can I include bits of this as part of the podcast itself?
Yeah, I'm good. I don't think I said anything
too off the cuff.
Off color. I thought about making a fart joke, but I didn't do it. So you're safe.
Oh, you're more than welcome to make those. Who are we to stop you?
Yeah, who is not to stop you at this point with his makeup?
And I'll also say when it comes to like language or off color stuff or whatnot, like I'm very relaxed. I'm at the same level as you. Like I'm not saying yet to I'm not saying you have to censor yourself. Just again, this is a
I'll just talk like a person.
There you go. Calm, cool, casual conversation.
I feel so underdressed. This isn't fair.
Do you not have like a quick little mask or something?
Give me 2 minutes.
Okay.
I'm doing it.
You got this. We believe in you.
We believe in you. I'm now partially scared.
Why would you be?
We set this man to get dressed up for the Halloween episode.
What's your Halloween costume? I'm a scary Disney adult. I claim things that are meant to be for me, even though it's for the kids.
Damn it. Just damn it. Okay, he's coming back. I see him coming back.
No.
All right, I'm coming back.
All right.
What you got? Oh, there you go. Perfect.
I got something now.
There we go.
Okay.
I guess given the stuff that we're probably gonna be talking about, I think the skeleton is probably probably very in line per character.
Oh, good.
All right, Maxwell. Before we really get going, I must ask the icebreaker question of the podcast, if I may. Let's say you get to go to a desert island on your own accord. It's just you, alone with your thoughts. You get to kick back, relax, breathe, can truly enjoy yourself for a little bit. With accommodations, you're not stranded on this desert island. It's kind of, you're not stranded on this desert island. It's a little personal Airbnb paradise away from society for a little bit. To help make sure you don't go further insane on this island, you can bring one piece of media or one piece of art with you to help whatever kind of headspace you want on this island. If given this opportunity, what would that one piece be?
That's hard. I'm going to have to bring some sort of Mad Magazine compendium, I think.
Ooh.
I think the jokes and the nostalgia would get me through.
Is that something that you more or less like grew up on, those amazing Mad magazines and such?
Yeah, I'd like to think there's a lot of that DNA in Billy and Mandy, so...
Honestly, yeah, thinking back to some of the humor and whatnot and then what you guys were able to present or whatnot, that makes way too much sense. I guess, all right, that's a good answer regardless. Wow, words come back to me. Regardless, the Mad Magazine compendium compilation book or whatnot, that is your answer. You're locking that in.
I'm locking it in, mostly because I know I'll change my mind if I don't.
That is a very valid point. Then if that's the case, I cannot think of a better way to start the Postmodern Art Podcast Halloween episode.
Ooh.
I'm your host, Nathan Ragland, a.k.a. I guess Olive the Clown, because Tipsy thinks that my little cheek things are like olives or something like that.
Olives, you can't change my mind.
Feel free to. Oh, actually, before I continue, I am also joined by a very special co-host today. Tipsy, would you like to introduce yourself to the crowd?
Hi, my name is TipsyJHearts. I'm an artist and an animator, and I might be your problem under your bed sheets later.
Feel free to like, share, subscribe, or follow whatever audio streaming platform you prefer. You would look fantastic in the merch that we have at the merch shop. Go to fourthwall.com. Link to that is in the description below. And follow us on Blue Sky, Instagram, TikTok, and most social media platforms at PostModArtPod for future updates and guest announcements, including today's guest. He is an animator, writer, voice actor, and creator of legendary cartoons such as Evil Con Carne, Underfist, and The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, among many others. Welcome to the podcast, Maxwell Atoms!
Hello.
Woo! Yeah!
How are you doing today, Maxwell?
I'm doing pretty good. I haven't screwed it up yet, and we're nearing the end. So
we are nearing the end. Well, thank you for being with us near the end of the day, I guess, at the time we're recording this. Like I kind of illustrated in the intro, whenever we realized we had an opportunity to chat with you, we were absolutely ecstatic. I cannot speak for Tipsy, but I can at least speak for me. Like, Billy and Mandy was one of those shows that not only shaped my childhood, but kind of shaped my humor and shaped me to be the person that I am. Tipsy, with your dog in tow, would you have to say you agree or otherwise, or?
Oh, I absolutely agree. I just can't look at her in the eyes. But
what happens if you do?
I'll show you.
Oh,
Okay.
But regardless, like, long and short of it is an honor and a pleasure to even get a chance to chat with you, let alone to have you on here for the podcast. And we are excited to talk about all the different aspects you've had a hand in. But before we discuss that, I want to go back just a little bit and learn more or less the origin story of Maxwell. What got you interested in art and animation and such in the first place?
I mean, I think like it's hard to say exactly when it started, but it was just I consumed a lot of media as a kid. So Saturday mornings, I'd wake up with my sister at like 6 a.m, starting with. I don't even think the Smurfs was the first one. There were like 2 things on before that, but we'd basically go from the Smurfs all the way through like 11 o'clock when you get back to like the after school special stuff and just kind of lose interest. But, there was a good 5-6 hours of cartoons in there. So
there was
I was exposed to a lot of that. And I think it was always something I was interested in. So even when I was like 8 years old, I was just making up dumb show ideas and drawing pictures.
I mean, to be fair, especially at that, young of an age, the kind of cartoons that shaped a lot of people, especially, around that time when there was like the Smurfs, He-Man, Transformers, all that kind of stuff. Like, I can instantly see how that could grab a young imagination and really help it grow, more or less. When did you realize that like animation was a possibility that you could see yourself in?
I mean, it was always something I was interested in, like I said, but I think it was like the 90s, the early kind of 90s when, that was kind of when Disney was hitting its golden age and Ren and Stimpy came out, so it made it seem like creating a show was sort of accessible to normal people. So yeah, just going into college kind of with the attitude that that's what I was going to do. Not that it was like a possibility, but that I was going to do it. That's kind of where I was.
I mean, it's a good mentality to have regardless, just like going in thinking like, I can do this. I got this. We're going to keep going. We're going to keep pushing no matter what. I can only imagine, like, especially with some of those early cartoons that you talked about, especially with, getting the opportunity to actually have your hand working in animation. I'm curious because you kind of mentioned that you had a couple of you always had kind of like ideas. What were some of like the early ideas of cartoons that if you had the opportunity you would have loved to have made into reality?
Looking back, like a lot of the early ones they weren't great. Like they were just kind of ideas to have ideas. Like it was sort of, these broad kind of dumb concepts. Like there was one called Milkman about a character with a milk carton for a head. And back then, this makes almost no sense now, but back in like the 80s and the 70s, there was like pictures of missing kids on milk cartons. So this character would like take a mirror and like look at the back of his own head to find pictures of missing kids and then like fly through the air and save them, and he had an udder, so he would squirt them with milk. There was like no way in hell that was going to happen. So I'm kind of glad that it didn't. Like, I think sort of Billy and Mandy was, another sort of like, hey, what if there were two kids with the Grim Reaper idea? But it left me enough leeway to actually create some interesting characters and make a bunch of shows, whereas I'm not sure the other ones would have.
You mentioning that, it kind of reminded me of that one episode you did where there was like this little cute adorable alien, and then you made like this superhero character, and it was supposed to be like a commercial.
Oh yeah, that was Super Zeros.
Yeah,
Brett Barron animator or storyboarded that one with the little Winston character.
Right.
Yeah, Winston. Oh my god.
The shooting of the yogurts out the armpits.
There you go.
That's right. Oh goodness. I'm sorry, but like you mentioning like the milkman, I was thinking more of like it was starting to sound more like the Ren and Stimpy that you had mentioned, like it was an offshoot of Powdered Toast Man or something like that.
I mean, it looked enough like that was probably a problem as well.
Fair enough, valid. I'm curious, when did I know I kind of asked this already, but when did for you go from this like general love and appreciation for like the art and animation to a passion and truly wanting to make it your career?
Again, it was just like something that I sort of felt like I was already doing. Like most of my free time was just spent drawing comic strips and little comic books and flip books and animating stuff on the computer. So.
Honestly, that's extremely valid. I mean, again, especially seeing what you've been able to produce, having that love more or less early on, and that desire to just create in general, I can see how it's just kind of always there,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard not to be doing it right now.
Extremely valid. Extremely valid. I mean, especially seeing some of the stuff that you had a hand early on as well, getting a chance to create with some of a couple of shows that I honestly remember and love extremely fondly. Like, look at your IMDb. I was genuinely surprised by seeing, like, you actually had a chance to work on shows like Cow and Chicken and I Am Weasel.
Yeah. I Am Weasel was sort of what got me the Billy and Mandy gig in a way. I did a couple of storyboards for that the executives were, I think, put me on their radar, I guess.
Okay. Honestly, that's incredible to hear. I mean, I can only imagine just working in that early, in those like 90s Cartoon Network era stuff or Hanna-Barbera stuff, working with some of the shows like that. It must have been like an interesting, like, I guess, trial by fire experience to actually be a chance to work in those places compared to, like you said, growing up just making like comics or flip books and all that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, it was a very different environment, for sure. It was sort of like an extension of college, but there is sort of, I guess, also the pressure of just having the job to do and like real consequences and just like the kind of the spotlight on you, but also just so many other like incredibly talented people.
Yeah, absolutely, especially for the shows like those that, I still love like just some of the humors that came from that show in general, like some of the writing that came from Cow and Chicken alone, or like I Am Weasel, like how they made these like very simple characters of Weasel and Baboon and found some of the funniest ways to like tell that kind of story, more or less.
Yeah, that was a lot of that was left up to the storyboard artists, and that was really kind of the template for how I ended up running Billy and Mandy.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned Billy and Mandy because at this point we can't avoid the topic anymore. I mean, you are the notorious, the incredible, and the either famous or infamous creator of the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. Now, I did want to at least ask this real quick before we jumped into the actual thing itself. I didn't realize that Billy and Mandy were characters that you kind of had for a little bit, or at least tinkered with a little bit, because when I was doing my research, I saw the junior thesis film that you had where you featured Billy and Mandy in the first place, where they basically, like, at least Mandy in that one gave Billy a lobotomy. Essentially is what it was. What was the
Excuse me?
Yeah, I'll send you that video later, Tipsy, because it's a fun student film, more or less, at the end of the day. What was the inspiration for Billy and Mandy in the first place?
For that film, I was in college, I was just really into like fringe culture and just weird kind of outsider ideas. I was really kind of into medieval alchemy and Gnosticism and just like dead end things that, you know, used to be really important to people, but nobody cared about anymore. So I would just like order these magazines and stuff. And one of them was about trepanation, or basically giving yourself a lobotomy to release the demons from your head. So when it came to doing this film, I knew I had 3 minutes, so it wasn't really enough time to tell like a full story. I just had to get through something quick, and I was like, well, I'll do the lobotomy thing, I guess.
Yes, when all else fails, students go with the lobotomy.
Yeah, you know?
Lobotomy, it works.
Lobotomy, it works. No, I cannot tell you, like, just watching that short film alone, like, I cannot tell you how much I love just like the charm of it more than anything else. It had almost like a 50s, like, you know, cartoon vibe to it more than anything else. At least watching it.
Yeah, that's what I was going for, and I think we had some problems with getting the film developed. Like the whole situation was like we shot these films on these Bolex cameras, 16 millimeter cameras, and we had to buy our own film, and black and white was cheaper. So I was like, I'll do like a 50s kind of thing.
Okay.
But I think between the crappy camera and just something happened in the developing, it's just super scratchy and dark. And I feel like it gives it kind of like this creepy pasta quality, which I appreciate, but that was never really the intention.
I mean, I know it wasn't the intention, but the vibe that quality gave or whatnot really nailed it at the end of the day. Like, really gave it the edge. So how did how did this concept evolve from, again, two kids basically talking about lobotomies to introducing the Grim Reaper into that bunch? How did, again, the concept for the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy just really came to be?
When I moved to LA, like I said, I was just pitching shows, so I would have like 2 or 3 ideas kind of going at any given time. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I would go out and pitch a couple, and there was when I was working on Cow and Chicken, somebody from Hanna-Barbera came into my office and was like, well, hey, do you want to pitch anything here? Because we have the shorts program. And I was like, oh, yeah, I do. So I went home and started to think about that. And so I ended up pitching them Milkman and this other thing called Marty the Martian Boy. And they passed on both of those, but did say, hey, because Billy and Mandy were in Milkman, they were like, hey, we like these 2 kids. And I was like, oh, okay, I know those 2 kids, so I can work with that. So I went home and I was like, well, what do I do with them? And it didn't seem like enough just to have them, like Mandy just treating Billy like shit for all time and him being an idiot. Like there had to be something else in there.
Right.
So I had this other idea called The Devil and Darla Blump, which was like this little girl who was basically the eventual incarnation of Mandy, who sort of tricks the devil into being her best friend. But I knew from Cow and Chicken that Cartoon Network wasn't really into the devil, and it was going to be a problem if I went that way. So I was like, well, I'll do the Grim Reaper. They'll love that. And I don't know how or why, but they went for it. And from there, it sort of rapidly kind of took on a life of its own.
Yeah, no joke. Because I remember seeing that initial pilot for, basically Billy and Mandy meet the Reaper, or whatever the initial short was called.
You mean the one where they were rescuing their pet hamster?
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, who showed up in one other episode ever, I think.
That honestly, I never knew that was a pilot episode when I saw that. I always thought that was that was just. I mean, I don't know if it's still technically a part of the series, but I guess it is. But I always thought that was wow. Early animation is so cool when I was a kid. I never knew the difference between the pilot episode and then new until I grew up, and then I realized oh, that's the pilot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like how
originally I don't think they were gonna, or they told me they weren't going to air it. We were gonna kind of redo it for the series, but that never really ended up happening. So it is what it is.
It is what it is. I mean,
I like it.
yeah, I think I can agree whenever say a lot of people liked it, because obviously if not a whole lot of people liked it, we wouldn't have gotten what we have gotten, which is this amazing, several year run of a genuinely fun, ridiculous, wacky cartoon at the end of the day. Um, I think part of it is just like the characters that you developed, as well as like some of the casting choices as well, really like nailed it more than anything else. Like, what was the process like? More or less like developing these characters or whatnot. Like, for example, why was the Grim Reaper having a Rastafarian accent or something along the lines of that? Or like, why specifically did we have to make sure that like Billy was more or less the dim one and Mandy was the smart one or whatnot? Like, what was it like developing these characters to have this weird mesh?
That was kind of the fun part for me. Like I said, it kind of developed rapidly for me after that, where like I kind of divided Billy, Mandy, and Grimm up into like my own id, ego, and super ego, and so they just sort of became these aspects of my own personality in a way. Shoot, I've lost my train of thought. I always do this.
You're good. You're perfectly fine.
You're totally fine, man.
Remind me what the question was.
How did you more or less like develop these characters to the way that they were? Like I said, like how did we?
Oh, right. You had asked about specifically the
like for example, like why Grimm was you had a Rastafarian accent.
the accent. Yes.
Why were Billy and Mandy like given the dynamics that they were?
So yeah, like that's kind of where it started, and then I did my first board, and that got approved, and that's there's a lot of negotiating that happens there. So when it came to casting, that was like the first kind of real opportunity to push things kind of back in the direction I wanted them to be. And the first thing that happened was somebody just brought this giant cardboard box of audio cassette tapes to my desk, and we're like, these are the actors. Pick actors from these tapes. So I just spent days listening to like all these auditions, and this was like the height of Rugrats.
Okay.
So everybody sounded like Tommy Pickles. It was just Tommy after Tommy. And so it was really rare to find somebody that just kind of was doing something different.
Right.
And I came across Richard Horvitz first, and I was like, that's Billy. Like right away, I was like, he's set aside. And really nobody in that box, nobody else interesting kind of came out of that. And he was really the only one we got from the box. Mandy in the pilot was voiced by my ex-wife. I got married when I was 19.
Oh, wow.
So I sort of just went into it assuming she would do the voice, and then they were like, well, no, she's not in SAG. You have to pick somebody else. And I was like, oh, okay. So for Mandy and Grimm, we just ended up doing auditions because there was nobody on the tapes that really felt right to me. So I ended up getting Gray Delisle to come in, and she was just about perfect for Mandy right off the bat. That was after a long list of people. And Grimm, he was supposed to be British, like in my mind. Everybody that came in, we had kind of do a British accent. Like I always kind of thought of him as like Dr. Smith from Lost in Space. And we even had the original Dr. Smith come in and do it, but he was very old, and it would have been like a whole logistics thing just getting him to and from the studio, I think. But eventually we got Greg Eagles in, and he was a lot of fun, and he was doing his British thing, and just between takes, he just did this Jamaican accent and kind of the laugh from the 1987 Up commercial, and I was like, do more of that. And then we ran through the whole thing with the Jamaican accent, and that just kind of stuck with me, and nobody that came in after that really changed my mind.
And the rest is history more than anything else. Like that like those three alone, like the way that they like really put the series on a different pedestal with their performances and like how they delivered the humor in all different aspects, they're just fantastic. I think we were blessed to have those people working together more than anything else, and still doing incredible stuff to this day. I'm gonna probably edit this little bit out, but you saying Richard reminded me real quickly. This is gonna be a weird question. Is your agent related to Richard by chance?
I don't think you have to cut this out.
Okay.
He's Richard's son, and I actually do have a fun story where a couple years ago, I guess this is more like 6 or 7 years now, But my girlfriend was an actress, and she was like, "Hey, you want to take an improv class together?" And I was like, "Yeah." So I want to expand my horizons. And I was really nervous about it, but I did it, and I actually learned a lot. I think it's cool, and most people probably should do it.
Okay.
Just for like the learning to work with other people and anticipate other people's needs. That was cool. Anyway, at one point there's like this cool dude that comes in with like his leather jacket, and he's like smoking and pacing around, and I'm like, oh, he better be funny. And then he gets up and does his thing, and I'm like, damn it, he's funny. But we go through this whole thing, and you don't really get to know the people. You just do your thing and kind of go home afterwards. So toward the end, we all got together for drinks or I guess after the last class, and I ended up sitting next to this guy. So we were making small talk, and he's like, "Well, what do you do for a living?" And I was like, I work in the animation industry. I make cartoons." And he's like, "Oh, really? Yeah, my dad works in the animation industry. You probably wouldn't know him though. He's a voice actor." And I was like, "Oh, I know some voice actors." And then he's like, "Well, yeah, he was the voice of Invader Zim and Billy from the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy." And I went, "I held you on my lap as a baby."
That is like so funny, but also like kind of sweet as well.
So yeah, it's very strange, but yeah, he's a really cool guy. So I'm glad it worked out.
He seems really cool, and I will also say thank him once again for really helping making this thing work, because he was a pleasure to chat with in order to get this thing set up in the first place. But obviously back to the actual cover, back to what we were really talking about. Like it's cool to have that kind of cast, especially going forth to tell that cartoon alone. But yet also at the same time you were telling a different cartoon at the same time, Evil Con Carne. How did that idea, or how did that concept come to be? Like how did that get developed more or less alongside Billy and Mandy?
So for me, Billy and Mandy was, like I said, sort of like the Mad Magazine vibe of like just satirizing all the other stuff I loved growing up with, like the Hanna-Barbera cartoons, the Warner Brothers cartoons, the Leave It to Beaver reruns, whatever. And then like the other stuff I loved was like, the G.I. Joes and the Thundercats and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So Evil Con Carne was sort of my, I guess, homage to that stuff.
Okay.
So while they were making up their mind about Billy and Mandy, I was still in the building. So they were like, "Do you want to do another short?" And I was like, "Sure." I pitched on that one, and I just kind of rolled onto that while kind of the Big Pick weekend stuff was happening.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time Billy and Mandy happened, this was still sort of that early Cartoon Network era where everything had a middle cartoon. So instead of 2 11-minute cartoons, you get 3 7-minute cartoons, and the middle one would be like Dial M for Monkey, or that kind of thing.
Right.
So that's what Evil Con Carne was kind of supposed to be for us, was our I Am Weasel, our middle cartoon.
I mean, it's certainly like it's definitely a fun dichotomy to what you're talking about. Like you said, you got the fun, Mad Magazine zany wackiness that you get with Billy and Mandy, and then you have this like semi like different tone but still hilarious Evil Con Carne. Like I cannot tell you how many times I can just think of like all the different like vocal stems from that show alone more than anything else. Like and I also appreciate that after more or less like that, little concept ended with like the little middle TV show or whatnot, you were still able to find a way to incorporate some of those characters into Billy and Mandy and still keep the universe kind of more or less complete. I thought it was brilliant, more or less. Like it was a fun thing to kind of keep them all in the same universe.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. I think that was mostly just me not wanting to let some of them go.
Yay to hoarding. No. I really do appreciate like all these different characters and all these different like ideas and concepts that you more or less brought forth. Like I'm curious, at least when it comes to the characters alone, is there a personal favorite character out of the bunch, or at least one that you hold nearest and dearest, like between the two shows?
It is hard to pick. Yeah, I can't pick between Billy, Mandy, and Grimm. I guess Jeff has a special place in my heart because he's kind of a different version of me, and I literally voice him. So there's that.
Yeah.
The spider?
Yeah.
Maybe Jeff.
Yeah. This is the voice of Jeff.
Oh wait, you know what? That's a good point.
No, there you go.
It's not a Halloween episode without a spider.
Oh, good. It's the live action adaptation of Jeff.
I'll be anything you want me to be, Dad.
Why won't you die?
This is a perfect place to lay my eggs.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, Scar is obviously pretty great too, because we did bring him over to a completely different show. So
a different show, while also like giving him like somehow more zanier stuff to do or whatnot, like changing him from like the military type to just like the annoyed neighbor at the end of the day. I thought that was funny and hilarious.
Yeah, the Mr. Wilson.
Yeah, the Mr. Wilson essentially. I'm also curious as well, like for you, obviously, the show ran for several different years, or several years, ending in like what 2007, 2008, somewhere around that run or whatnot. So many different episodes, so many different moments or whatnot. Do you have a personal favorite, at least when it comes to episodes or moments or just interactions in general?
That's a tall order.
I can imagine.
I don't know, episodes or moments. That's hard right there. But I don't know. I've been digging through a lot of old stuff, so I did find the storyboard for Billy and Mandy Moon the Moon, which was the big Cartoon Network crossover with the cheese aliens. And the whole thing was just so dumb and so frustrating, but like I think that was kind of the fun of Billy and Mandy, was like sometimes you would just get like these notes that made no sense from standards or something, or I don't know, there was always some way to channel that stuff into something fun. So even though we had this like big frustrating special that I had on top of like two other specials, like somehow it just ended up being a really good time.
I mean, especially for something as wacky as that episode and that little crossover event more than anything else. I mean, I imagine it didn't obviously hurt having the amazing crew that you had helping you out with this project. I mean,
for sure.
I mean, think it's just all the people that helped out. I know most notorious of them all is definitely C.H. Greenblatt. I mean, with all the stuff that he's had handed afterwards or whatnot, like it must have been amazing both in the moment but also in hindsight, thinking that you have such incredible people helping you out make this silly little idea a reality.
Oh no, for sure. Like it took a couple years, but we got a really solid crew, and I think for like 5 or 6 years we I don't know, it was the kind of thing where everybody would just go to lunch together at the same time, and just there was always like the mob. So it was, I don't know, it was really cool because everybody was really creative and had a lot of creative freedom, but everybody also got along fairly well and were comfortable, bouncing things off each other or shooting each other with Nerf guns.
I would have paid to see that, just the Nerf fights you guys could have. And I can imagine if given the opportunity, you would have had like just an all-out Nerf warfare, like the paintball episodes of Community or something like that.
Oh, for sure. Those definitely happened.
Oh,
there was one. I got LASIK eye surgery. This was a long time ago. But like the morning after I got it, I remember opening up the door to go into the storyboard pitch room, and there were just like Nerf darts everywhere, and this Nerf dart just comes out of nowhere and hits me right in the eye, and I just remember backing out of the room and going to my office like, am I okay?
Am I? Do I leave it in or do I take it out?
Right. I was okay.
I imagine you just recovered. Oh my god! I mean, no, I had LASIK too. It's sensitive. Oh my god!
I mean, he can still see, right? You can still see, right?
I did all right. I got through it.
There you go. Oh goodness, I can also imagine, like, especially the more you had a chance to work on this stuff and the more episodes you were able to push out there, the more insane ideas. It had to be insane, on the other hand, to see how many people, like, loved and clinged on to this silly, wacky idea. Like, the people that grew up watching this show and seeing how much then and even how much now they still love and appreciate all the silly episodes, silly moments, fun interactions, out of context stuff. It's got to be insane seeing the kind of touch that this show has kind of had on society as a whole.
Yeah, like it's. I've gotten a bunch of messages on Instagram recently from people that were really sweet, and yeah, sometimes it's kind of overwhelming, but I don't know. I feel like we, like I said, we all had a lot of fun making it, and I think that kind of comes through in the end product. So
I mean, I know
I'm down with it.
I was gonna say, I know for me, I definitely had a few. I had a few episodes that I still hold near and dear to this point. I I did remember something. I can't believe I didn't write this down sooner, but I remember in like second or third grade, we were given an assignment that we had to make basically like a picture book or something along the lines of that. And I remember that I basically made a Billy and Mandy spec script essentially out of that project, more or less. But it was like an episode that really like went nowhere. It was just like Billy and Mandy and Grim were like going on like a camping trip or something along the lines of that, and then all of a sudden a golden orb comes out of a cave and like attacks them, and all of a sudden the day restarts. Like it was the beginning of a script, but it wasn't the end of a script.
Well, it sounds cool to start with, so.
Exactly. Like I remember I couldn't help but like as I was preparing for this, thinking about that fun little moment, and also like just some of the episodes that I still like cannot get enough of. Like I will just bluntly say this, my favorite episode of all time, and this might be a cop out answer for some, but Little Rock of Horrors. Like that alone is just a fantastic episode.
Yeah.
Like the premise alone is fun. The music, whenever you got Voltaire to do like the singing and stuff like that, was absolutely phenomenal. And like I still think about that. Brains is okay. Like I still think about that song to this day.
Yeah, I got super lucky on that one too, in that he showed up in my town and I got to speak to him, and then when I asked him to do the song, like what came back was better than anything I could have hoped for. So.
Oh wow. I was gonna say, fun little connection to that, if I remember correctly. Tipsy, you worked on a reanimation project for that episode, or at least that song. Am I correct in remembering that?
Yes, you're correct for. Oh, sorry. Yes, you're correct for. Sorry, my dog decided to stretch. She's still stretching. Yes, you're correct for that. I did a reanimated scene for the Brain song, and so did other animators too. And the whole thing is up on YouTube now. So
yeah, it's very cool. I saw that.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, it's honestly like one of my it was one of my like lifelong bucket list dreams that I wanted to do if I ever learned to animate, because as you can tell too, like it's another one of my favorites from you as well, and it's the show really means a lot to me, and I was like, if I were to learn to animate, I want to do something that has to deal with Little Rock of Horrors, and then random one of the hosts that was forgot his name. I am so sorry, but he had a reanimated opening scene, and I was so lucky enough to grab the scene, and I was like, I have to do it. I have to do it. So
yeah, it's a lot of work. It's so cool that communities come together and do that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I was gonna say, but like also on top of that, I just want to run through this list real quickly of some of my favorite episodes. Like for example, Chocolate Sailor. I still remember that episode very fondly, especially at the end of like you have milk, dark, hazelnut, or however it was pronounced, and antidote. And then Billy runs through the options and just eats it all and then explodes. It's perfect. Mm-hmm. It's like it's so simple but it's so silly. My Fair Mandy. Like that episode ending with with Mandy, having to smile for the first time in I think just about the entire series or whatnot.
Yes. The beauty pageant episode.
The beauty pageant episode. An episode that messed me up, at least in hindsight, was the Halls of Time episode. Like, because I've always been like weird about like time and I guess not having control of time or whatnot, so to just have these characters like basically age in reverse to the point to where they're literally unborn, unalived or whatnot, like it was a funny concept, but it also kind of messed with me a little bit, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, definitely most of the ones you mentioned I was purposefully trying to mess with people a little bit.
I
I
mean,
just sort of had this list of things that I thought would be weird or fun ideas, or that I felt like were social taboos that I could kind of crack, like auto cannibalism, just eating yourself. That was definitely on that list. So
I will say, I'm going to say this right now. Though the way, because I remember little me, how Cartoon Network like hyped up the episode about Mandy smiling, and I was telling me and my brother, because this was back in the day when you just go back to school and you just go home and you're just like, oh yes, that episode, right on the money. And we watched it, and the moment like Mandy is like smiling, and it's like this crooked thing, and it's just an explosion of like white light, and oh god, I remember that, and I'm just like, you know, maybe it's a good thing she never does. She probably should stay that frowning face forever. Probably for the best.
Plus that moment right before, why do I have a feeling something really bad is about to happen, and then boom. I cannot tell you how much I love and appreciate like those. Another one that I remember that I love, but I wish I got an opportunity to see more. And when this episode goes live, I believe the evening of it will be replayed on TV, is the Underfist Halloween special. I'm so curious when it comes to this. What made you like want to develop that little concept in the first place of just taking some of the characters and making them this weird like supernatural hunting like badass superhero team?
That started as a joke. So somewhere toward the end, I was talking to, I think it was Greenblatt, and we were just kind of joking about what like a spin-off of Billy and Mandy would even be. Because I sort of felt like we were kind of nearing the end, and I was looking forward to doing something a little different, but at the same time, I got this dumb idea stuck in my head of like, well, what if the main characters are kind of pushed to be side characters, and then you just took like 5 of like my favorite dummies and kind of made them their own thing, and it just sort of developed from there into Haas sort of leading this team of really bad monster fighters.
I mean, you say that, but like their dynamic was so weird, but it worked so well. Like obviously Irwin, showcasing his true powers or whatnot was just a fun little thing on its own. Haas was the ideal person to lead the group, obviously. I still cannot get enough of obviously you and Greenblatt, the musical numbers you both did as Jeff and Fred Burger. Like it was a fantastic little moment in that thing.
Fred Burger.
Yeah, that was me trying to push my boundaries again. I don't know how well that worked, but
I think it worked well.
Can I just ask, what's up with Fred Burger? Like, what made you bring him into existence?
He's entirely C.H. Greenblatt's creation. We had the episode Keeper of the Reaper where he first appears. That was written by Richard Horvitz, and then we handed it out to Carl to storyboard it. And he came to me a couple days later, and he was like, hey, I have this idea where I kind of want to tell the whole thing from the perspective of one of the jurors. And I was like, well, who's the juror? And he's like, oh, it's this guy named Fredberger. And he's like a little green elephant. Okay. Because by that point, he had done like so many amazing boards. I was just like, yeah, do whatever you want, man. Like, and of course, like the day of the pitch, like everybody was, crying. So it worked out well.
I still remember, I think I could still do a halfway decent, like, Fred Burger voice. Fred Burger, yes!
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Like, I'm sorry, but, like, especially growing up on Cartoon Network, especially in the time whenever Fred Burger became, like, the branding of the network as well, with the, Cartoon Network, yes! Like, that...
Yeah, that was bizarre.
That was definitely... I imagine of all the characters that you thought would become part of the branding of Cartoon Network, I bet you didn't expect Fred Burger to be the one to lead that charge, huh?
That took you a while to say that name, huh?
Well, it's not like it rolls off the tongue quite eloquently, especially when you spelled out F-R-E-D. Okay, I won't spell the whole thing.
Please don't. Maybe drop Joe.
I'm curious, but back to Underfist as well. Like I love that special so much. I'm surprised Cartoon Network did basically nothing with it up until again recently showing the special again on Halloween or whatnot. Like I'm like. Have you ever tried maybe exploring that option again and seeing if you can get it off the ground with Cartoon Network and such, or is it just kind of one of those
I mean, at the time that was sort of right when they had their management transition and decided they were going to make live action stuff.
Right.
Like if you watch the special all the way to the end, like at the very end of the end credits, there's a little clip of Billy saying all that work and nothing to show for it, and that's because we knew it was already dead.
Damn.
So yeah, the by the time we wrapped it up, we kind of knew that the current wave of shows was going away and probably leaving the building. And sure enough, that's kind of what happened to everybody. But since then, I've talked to Cartoon Network a couple times in the last few years about various things, and I think they've just been kind of like Warner Brothers in a bad spot where they've been in the middle of the same corporate mergers, and they don't feel like they have a lot of money. So they were waiting to see if a couple other things took off before we talked about more stuff, and then I think they put those on hold. So
right.
I don't know. So it is what it is right now. Maybe someday something will happen, but I'm not sure.
I hope so. I'll just at least say, Warner Brothers Discovery, if you're watching this, and I know you are, we bring Underfist to reality. We need that silly concept brought to reality, even if it's just for 2 seasons. Something at the bare minimum to make that a reality. Because I remember watching that for the first time when it premiered, and I just again, like I said, it's something that I still hold near and dear, and just wish that there was more of. So hopefully
it would be
it would be a lot of fun. But obviously, after Billy and Mandy had its run, and after Underfist came out to the world and whatnot. Oh wait, I also forgot to mention, it was really cool to see that you guys got a good couple specials, not just with the Moon one, but having the Codename Kids Next Door crossover and the big movie at the end, the Big Boogie's Adventure or whatnot.
And the Spider.
The what?
The Spider Queen one was
the Spider Queen
special.
That was another special as well. I was curious about, at least with the big movie at the end or whatnot. Was that more or less the opportunity given to you guys to give a proper send off to these characters or whatnot? What was the inspiration for that film?
I think Cartoon Network, when everybody got up to 52, that used to kind of be the end, 52 half hours.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of the original, the run of the original Dexter's set that they did. So I think when they were talking about picking up more Dexter, they were like, well, we'll pick up more Dexter, and we'll also kind of make this Dexter direct-to-DVD movie.
Okay.
And when that did well, I think they were like, okay, well, we'll do this with the other shows that we've got up to 52 at this point. So I think we were deeper into it than 52, because it felt like everything was kind of piled on at the end, we were doing all the specials and Big Boogie at the same time.
Okay.
But I don't remember.
Still, I will say though, what you guys were able to produce with Big Boogie's Adventure, again, the performances, the different aspects of mixed media and such. Fred Willer giving a fantastic performance as well. I again, another one of those, Billy and Mandy was one of those shows that really touched me. So seeing that movie, especially at the end or whatnot, it swelled my heart three times that day. Probably I should see a doctor about that. It might be bile.
Yeah, probably.
But obviously after the run with all that kind of stuff or whatnot, it's not like you ultimately stopped. You still worked on several incredible things afterwards. I was genuinely surprised to see, for example, one of the things that you had a hand in was Disney's fish hooks.
Yeah.
How did that concept come to be, and how did you bring that one to reality?
That one, after Cartoon Network changed directions, they cut pretty much everybody free, so there was just this massive kind of talent pool out there, and I think Disney was like, well, we're just going to take everybody, because they kind of did. They kind of like picked up almost. It felt like a pretty big portion of the people that Cartoon Network let go, and they were starting a bunch of new shows. So I was pitching something of my own to them at that point, and they were like, well, we have this other thing called Fish Hooks that has a pilot. We're going to pick up the pilot, but we don't, it's going to need a little more development. So we need somebody to kind of take charge of this thing and lead it into production. So I was like, okay, that sounds good. I'll do that, and I'll work on the development in the background. And the development in the background just kind of like went on forever. It never really went anywhere. But yeah, Fish Hooks, I was there for like 5 years, I think, as the executive producer. 4 or 5 years. It was quite a while.
It must have been
Greenblatt came over with me. A good chunk of the Billy and Mandy crew, and a whole bunch of really cool new people.
I mean, it must have been very interesting, regardless, to having to go from, like, again, the silly Mad Magazine style, comedy you had with, like, Billy and Mandy, to this more, like, still silly, but, like, more serialized kind of school setting when it came to Fish Hooks or whatnot. Like, how was that kind of dichotomy for you, kind of more or less adjusting from the previous sets of humor to Fish Hooks?
It doesn't seem that different to me. Like, there's certainly less like fart jokes.
True.
But it was sort of the same. We tried to give it kind of the same. I can't say it has the same vibe, because it definitely has a Disney vibe.
Right.
But as far as just being artist friendly and having just handing out premises to storyboard artists and kind of seeing what fun stuff comes out, I think kind of the best of our episodes benefited from that, and probably the worst of our episodes suffered from it. But
I mean, regardless, I still, again, it's another one of those, like, I didn't realize you had a hand in it till I was doing my research for this or whatnot. But thinking back to that show when I did watch it, like, I certainly can see the hints of the Billy and Mandy humor more or less like slipping in there or whatnot, but it still had its own like vibe. It still had its own like sense of humor that it showcased or whatnot. And I appreciate you and the crew, what you guys were able to do with that, insane concept. And once again, the cast as well, having such legends just as Dana Schneider, like helping out with that kind of stuff. And it's incredible to think that like you've had a hand with some interesting shows like that. Another interesting show that I'm not gonna lie, I almost forgot about, was you were also a producer director for Bunnicula as well, the animated series.
Yeah. I don't blame you for almost forgetting it, because I'm not even sure it really aired in the United States.
It did, but it was in I think it was in like certain TV shows, like certain TV channels like Boomerang.
Yeah, it was definitely on Boomerang. I know there's certain places where it's hard to get Boomerang or you can't get Boomerang. So
yeah, it was like one of those. Because I know for me, because back then in my day, like my family had like a lot of access to channels, even certain channels that you wouldn't have never heard of, like Discovery Kids or something like that. But I did remember the commercial and some of the episodes premiering for Bunnicula, if I said that right.
Yep. I was gonna say I remember that series partially because I remember reading the book series that it was based on more than anything else. So it's like I saw they had an animated series. I'm like, I wonder how that's gonna translate like for the animated stuff for the different episodes for that. What was it like working on that show as well?
This is actually a fun conversation because it's reminding me just how volatile like development is. Because like all these shows, it's like you go in with like your own vision of what you want it to be, and then there's just like all this pushback, and usually from like places you don't expect.
Really?
And then you have to be like, okay, like how do I get to where I want to be, and like can I still get there now? And they all worked out, I think, in their own way, but. Yeah, that one was, based on the children's book. There was a pilot done for that by my friend Jessica Barutsky.
Okay.
And it was her first show, so they were like, "Do you want to come in and kind of help her run this thing, and that was a lot of fun because she was like, well, I'm really just interested in primarily in like making beautiful art, and I was like, well, I'm really interested in the story stuff, so we kind of like divided it up and in a way that I've never really done with anyone else, which was very cool. But yeah, that was we went into it being like, well, we want this to be kind of spooky for kids, not scary, but like the kind of thing that when you grow up, you're like, oh, I appreciate spooky things now because I watched Bunnicula. And unfortunately, the first episode that I did was called Spider Lamb, and it's about Chester the cat is reading this children's book about a spider lamb, which is a lamb with 8 legs, but it's sort of huge and I guess scary. But it comes out of the book and comes to life, and one of the executive's daughters saw it and I guess started to cry. So we had to like go back and like retool like 3 episodes and kind of refigure out, some of the character stuff we were doing just to make it work in the format they wanted.
I want to see the original version of this Spider Lamb and like what.
It's really not that different. It's it was sort of just, I guess, the tonal spookiness of it that I didn't think would bother anyone did, and I think it's unfortunately because it happened to be a spider, and we happened to have found a kid that was especially afraid of spiders. So if it had been anything else, the whole show might have steered a little differently, but who knows.
I mean, that's interesting and it's valid, especially seeing the run that show more or less had and hearing the development like you're talking about. Like, it seems like just about everywhere you went and everything that you've had a hand in when it comes to the industry as a whole, you've had to deal with probably a lot of interesting like standards and practices and executives when it comes to just about everything you had to do, huh?
Yeah, I think everybody does, really. It's kind of part of the business, and you just kind of have to, I guess, either just accept it or find your way around it somehow.
I mean, also it doesn't hurt that, again, the shows you more or less had a hand in was, kids being friends with the Grim Reaper and a vampire bunny as well.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah. There's that.
I will say what's fun is, though, like, between all these different working with the executives or whatnot, there was another concept that I saw that I really wish had the opportunity to grow and really have its own thing. And that is this TV concept that you developed called Dead Meat. I'm curious, for those who have no idea what I'm even talking about in the first place, how would you describe Dead Meat?
Dead Meat was going to be my post-apocalyptic puppet action movie. Sort of like the Muppets meet Mad Max, I guess.
Oh,
Okay.
Just hearing that
That
alone. Yeah, hearing that alone was just like incredible. I remember hearing about this because if I remember correctly, I think that's how you may have met Dave, because I think Dave said that he had worked like on the set for like the promo for it or something along the lines of that.
Yeah, and Vivian Madrano from Has Been Hotel, I both kind of met them at the same time. I was looking for people to help me out. Basically, this thing was, like I said, a post-apocalyptic puppet action movie. So I got to the point where I was building my own sets and my own kind of everything because I just didn't have the money to do it any other way.
Right.
So at one point I was like, well, screw it. I'm just going to invite a bunch of people over to my house, and we're going to tag the walls with spray paint and hit them with hammers and just kind of wreck the place. So I invited those 2 over and 4 or 5 other people, and we spent the day making strange props and knocking holes in walls.
Please tell me you weren't renting the place and you didn't have to worry about a deposit or anything like that.
No, the real unfortunate thing is like the whole project just it was so like labor intensive that just like every day I was dragging equipment out in the morning and setting it up and doing like all this work and then dragging it away so the dog wouldn't ruin it or something wouldn't fall over. So it just got to be like this pain over the course of 7 years, and like it was driving me crazy. So I was like, all right, I gotta finish this thing. So I was just like, pedal to the metal, like let's dump money into it and get it done. And like the second I decided to do that, that's when the pandemic hit.
Oh.
So like there was like a thing with SAG that I had to like resolve, and then like the pandemic hit, and I just got caught in that, and 4 years passed, and there came a point when I was just like, I don't even want to look at this thing right now. And there's so many kind of holes in it, and people aged 4 years and their hair changed, and live action's like a whole different ball game that maybe I wasn't ready for.
That's honestly very understandable. I can see where you're coming from with that. I would say, though, if I was around where you were and I knew about this thing ages ago, I would have been there every day to help you make that a better reality, at least ease a little bit of the pain off of you. Because, like, especially seeing, like, what you were pitching with this thing and, like, just saying alone, post-apocalyptic Muppets. We need stuff like that in our society. Like,
honestly, you didn't even need to pay me to just punch the holes in the walls. I could just do it for free.
Exactly.
I
was not using my resources wisely.
I mean, that is valid. I will say another concept that I saw, or at least got a little bit of a whiff of, more or less, is one that you recently teased as recently as last year. Something called Jonesey, which the main thing that I saw was a cat holding a flamethrower or something along the lines of that. Huh? What?
Okay, so yeah, I don't know. Like, I've got a couple things that like are ideas that I was going to pitch, but it's like right now the industry's sort of a mess. So I'm like, well, maybe I'll just do one of these myself, and I may still. I think for me, it's like it's not a matter of not having the ideas; it's just not having the ability to produce content as fast as I'd like in a way that looks like I'd like.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure that out, but. Jonesy is sort of an anthology sci-fi horror thing where basically it's like, your old school cartoons where, every episode, somebody has a different job, like Bugs Bunny works at the store or he works at a saloon. But in this case, it's like this whole group of people and, maybe one week they're on a spaceship hurtling into a black hole and the next week, it's the Old West, but... they're all the same personalities all the time. They always kind of look the same and they always kind of behave the same. But the gimmick is like they're cursed for all eternity and they're going to die by the end of the episode. And really the only two characters that kind of have a shot are Jonesy the cat and this kid called the Kid, who's basically more like an animal than a child. But everybody else is kind of an asshole and you kind of want to see them die. So that's the core of it, I suppose.
Oh, that sounds so much fun. Like, especially knowing that most of the cast is going to be dead by the end of it. Like, and especially given the different scenarios you just pitched right there off the bat. Like, I can already think of just, like, different scenarios with, like, the Wild West one or, like, in some sort of, like, science facility. You can make your own edition of the thing if you really wanted to. Like, at that point. Like, it's...
Yeah, there's definitely room to, like, riff on a bunch of movies or whatever, for sure.
I will also say, though, like, something that you said in your description talking about that is something that is kind of heartbreaking to hear, but also, like, a major reason why I wanted to bring you on the podcast in the first place. You said that the industry is kind of in this weird little, weird little place right now, and especially seeing, messages and your Instagram and also people on Twitter such as Salty DK Dan talk about the fact that you've had to, like, basically go through your stuff and sell a bunch of it. Like, it breaks my heart to hear that more than anything else, because, like, especially for someone like you that had a hand with so many people with such amazing concepts, just as me and Tipsy and so many other people, the fact that you have to do that just to get by, like, I can only imagine how rough it is, especially nowadays with the industry being as weird and wild as it is, to have to get to that point.
Yeah, it was a very special year.
Yeah.
On top of just the industry stuff, we had like a house flood, so we lost like a bedroom and a bathroom, and I've just been trying to get those fixed all year. So that's a good part of it, is just sort of like after I got done living in the post-apocalyptic house, I was like, oh good, now I can like fix this place and finally like live in a normal home. And then like the second that got done, it was just like house flood.
It's like you could try to get away from the post-apocalyptic vibes, but the post-apocalyptic vibes will always come back.
But yeah, like it is not a great time for the animation industry, and I think there's a lot of reasons for that. There's all the mergers that are still going on, and everybody's still talking about how that needs to get figured out. But I think a lot of it's there just was this sort of big bubble with the streaming, and animation for the vast majority of my career was a very, very small industry. Like you knew everybody pretty much, or at least you recognized them. Like you'd go to the next studio and you'd be like, oh yeah, there's that guy. But kind of I guess right around maybe 2016, 2017, things started to really ramp up. And I feel like the whole industry expanded probably by 5 times its size. And then that, again, like right along with the pandemic, just kind of imploded. So a good portion of the people that I know are out of work right now. Actually, I think almost everybody. There were a few people clinging on to shows that were still running, and those kind of petered out. And there's still some stuff going on, I know, at Nickelodeon. I've got a couple friends there, but I think everybody's now kind of just waiting, hoping in the new year that some things will get resolved. And I guess another thing I've heard and believe is that kids' TV is in kind of a weird place again because of the streaming and because kids have so many other outlets.
Right.
But it definitely doesn't help that nobody's making anything. So.
I mean, you would think with so many incredible people with such incredible ideas throughout the years that really helped, kids TV get to a certain peak in certain eras or whatnot. Some of the executives would listen to some of these people and maybe get some ideas on how to get the kids TV. Just a wild concept, just throwing it out there. Yeah, that took a very grim turn. I am so sorry for that.
Appropriately so.
Oh goodness. I mean, it's just. How should I word this? All I'm just gotta say is, at least when it comes to all this stuff, first off, I hope that one of the biggest changes that happening is the negotiations that are going on for a new contract when it comes to the Animation Guild and stuff like that. Hashtag stand with animation and all that stuff, because the people, especially for the Animation Guild, and throughout all of animation, they're working their tail ends off. And they deserve to be compensated for it, and compensated properly for it, especially for providing such great memories, such great concepts, and such I guess healthy learning in one form or fashion to a wide range of audience that loves it dearly. I just sincerely hope that it for your sake and for a lot of people in this industry, the friends that and even people past that, I sincerely hope the industry does get a lot better, because my heart crushes every single time I see hey, such and such show gets canceled, or such and such executive made X amount or something along the lines of that. You guys deserve your roses. You guys deserve the love and appreciation for all the hard work you guys have been able to do, whether it's years ago or the stuff you guys have been able to produce within the past year or so.
Cool, thank you.
All right, let me get that from my
I'm not going to disagree with any of that.
Let me get that from my soapbox. But even that aside, thinking to some of the amazing opportunities that you've had throughout the years or whatnot, and some of the incredible ideas and shows and concepts you've been able to push out there, thinking to your art journey as a whole, from whenever you were starting, watching those Saturday morning cartoons with your sister and such, does it amaze you how far you've been able to develop as an animator and as an artist?
Yeah, no, it's very cool. There was a point in 2020 when I was like, are we all gonna die? Is this the end of my career? And I was like, you know what? If this is the end of my career, I guess it's been a pretty good career. And then I had this meeting with this management company right afterwards, and they were like, tell us about your art journey. And I was like, you know what? If this is the end of my career, I think I've had a pretty good career. And then I realized you don't say that during those meetings.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been very, very cool, and I am very lucky to have gotten to work with all of the amazing people that I've gotten to work with. At the same time, right now I'm frustrated, and I've been frustrated for a few years just because I do feel like I have more to offer, and I've just been waiting for the opportunity, and now I'm like, where are you, opportunity?
Yeah.
So that's where all this new stuff is coming from. Is I guess I got to make my own opportunities. So I'm not quite sure what it is yet, but I'll figure it out.
I sure hope you get the opportunity to showcase it in one form or fashion. And also, I know you have a good connection with voice actors or whatnot, but if you need like a random voice actor that's trying to, get his opportunities or whatnot, have Mike will travel. I don't even want to be compensated. I just want to say, hey, I worked on a Maxwell Atoms thing.
All right, I'll keep you in mind.
Definitely. Before I get to my last couple of questions, Tipsy, do you have any questions for Maxwell?
Oh, yes, I do.
Well, that scares me.
Don't mind me. I'm just rubbing my hands evilly, or I have lotion on. Might be both. But I do have one. Well, I have 3 questions. So, first question, because going back to the pilot episode, because you said that, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, that you guys wanted to, I guess, polish up the pilot episode into the first episode, and they just didn't give you the time, if I'm correct. How would you have kept everything the same from that pilot episode, or was there something that you had in mind that would have been a different beginning for Billy and Mandy?
I think I was happy pretty much with how things went down for the most part. There were a couple little things I might change. And I know other people thought this too, but like at the very end, Grimm says, "I loathe you." And I think there's a lot of people that heard that as "I love you." And I didn't like that you couldn't really tell, so I might have done something different there. But mostly I would have kept it the same. It just would have been a visual change.
Okay.
Because I felt like the characters were developing so quickly that by the time, it's just like, I always have this problem, I guess, where you pitch a show and, you just, it's the 10th time you've drawn these characters maybe. And then, you draw them a few hundred more times and you're like, oh, now it needs to be different. And that was kind of the whole journey of Billy and Mandy, was like, I just kept drawing them and I kept finding new ways to draw them that I liked more. So they kind of just kept evolving, and I'm cool with that if other people are cool with it.
I mean, I'm very cool with that.
I'm very cool with it. So my second question is there a special or certain episode that still has you laughing to this day from a certain performance, or whether it be the entire episode itself is just so funny to you, it just cracks you up every time you think about it?
Every now and then, like I don't watch it too often, but I'll go back and watch stuff and I'll be surprised that stuff actually makes me laugh, because when you're making it, you have to watch these things so many times, and it gets so beaten into your brain that by the time you watch the final edit, you're like, okay, I'm out, I'm done. But yeah, it's the other day I was thinking of I had lunch with my friend Brett, who did the Super Zeros board with the yogurt, and he also did I can't remember which episode it is, but it's the one where Billy's dad is testing for acoustics so he can build like a doghouse or something. Oh my God. And then he picks his nose and pulls out his own brain and eats it. And I was like, that's probably the best nose picking joke I've ever seen.
And there's plenty to go off of when it comes to Billy and Mandy, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. I will say that's actually my favorite part of that's my favorite humor from Billy and Mandy. One of my top favorite humors from Billy and Mandy was the acoustics one. This man is just like yodeling, and Grimm is like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Checking the acoustics." And he just keeps going. That's genius right there. Okay. So I know I said I had 3 questions, but I think I'm developing a 4th one. So my 3rd question is, if you were to say, for example, if you were to have had Billy and Mandy extend for a long period of time, as much as you wanted to, would you have was there a certain way you would have ended the story itself of Billy and Mandy, and how would you have ended it? Or would it still been like a very long-term one, like SpongeBob?
I think where we ended it, I was okay with just kind of stopping, and I never really wanted like an ending. I kind of just wanted the idea that they just kept having dumb adventures forever. And for a few years after that, I was just kind of looking to do something different, and it's only been fairly recently that I was like, well, people are doing reboots of stuff, so like if I did do a Billy and Mandy reboot, like what would that be? So I did come up with a couple fun things, and one of them actually was sort of this movie called Billy and Mandy Destroy Us All. It would have been an ending of sorts. It was sort of this. I don't think it'll ever get made now. This was back, I don't know, like 3, 4, 5 years ago now, before all the multiverse stuff. But it was a multiverse story, so probably a little tired right now. But
I mean, you say that, but like Into the Spider-Verse.
Well,
and all
yes,
that stuff
still plenty to make fun of, I suppose. So.
Exactly. Also, I appreciate that that title, and I realize I'm dressed as the character that Billy would have said. That's
yeah.
Destroy us all! Destroy us all! Yes, I know, Tipsy. I'm embarrassment, I guess.
I have nothing to say to you.
You said you had a fourth question, by the way, or was that answered?
I did. No, I have my fourth question. I just felt the need to take my time to at least say this to you.
Oh no.
But to you, Max. Okay. Let me see. So my fourth question, and I believe it's my final question, unless give me a second, actually. Okay.
I'll say, while you're taking a second, I did have one thing I wanted to ask real quickly, and I just thought about this or whatnot. The episode Wishbones or whatnot, basically like a mini anthology series or whatnot. What was the deal with the rabbit? Like, as much as I love like the rabbit or that one, like it was like that was like that slightly like hilarious, but also like slightly unnerving or whatnot. Like, what was the deal with that?
I mean, the voice is ripped off of Donnie Darko pretty much, which I had seen not too long before that. And beyond that, like, yeah, it was. I wanted to do a storyboard, but I didn't really have the time. So I was like, well, maybe if I do like a 2-minute one, I can just stick it on the back end to somebody else's. And then I was like, what would be fun is if we just did like like you said, a mini anthology. So I just put like a sign up sheet on my door. And then people signed up for a character they wanted to handle. And I was like, here's kind of the premise. And then like 2 weeks later, I was like, shit, I got to do mine. So then I sat down and I was like, Puddin hasn't had his moment. So let's pick on Puddin for a while.
It was a great moment.
He needed to be punished.
I don't know why, but he did. Yeah.
Anyways, Tipsy.
Fourth question. So, I want to say that I know you love making really messed up stuff, especially with certain endings with Billy and Mandy, where some of them could end up really good, or some of them could have a really, really dark ending. Like, I guess the chocolate episode, for example, where Billy just explodes. I want to say, like, is there, had the series still continue, is there anything from any of the modern movies that are made nowadays, like, I guess, like Terrifier, Halloween, or any of the modern horror movies that you probably would take inspiration of for future episodes? It had Billy and Mandy continue.
Yeah, I think that would kind of be part of the fun of bringing it back now. Was like back then, I felt like I kind of had everything. I said everything I had to say about pop culture at the time, but now there's like 20 more years of stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, sometimes I do think about that, and definitely in that Billy and Mandy Destroy Us All, there are a lot of old school Billy and Mandy references to newer school things.
Okay. Well, hopefully we can get more off the, hopefully we can get opportunity to see something like, obviously, Billy and Mandy Destroy Us All or something like that. In fact, that kind of leads me into my next question, if I may. And I'm going to give you, Maxwell Atoms, the dream scenario. Let's say I am Big Shot Mr. Moneybags. I come up to him like, look, Maxwell, we've obviously seen the fantastic work you've pushed throughout the years or whatnot. We know that there is more there, all right? We know there's opportunity. You just obviously need an extra push, an extra platform to get you to that point, to make that reality. We have access to everyone and anyone in whatever industry possible, and more money than there should be possible. Again, we should be compensating the animators that are currently, trying to get that new contract. Hashtag Sam with animation, all that beautiful mess that's going on. We will focus on them in a little bit. We promise. But right now, we are focusing on you and you alone. If given this opportunity, what would be the current Dream Maxwell Atoms project?
That's a tough question. I am still enamored with this thing I've been working on for a long time called the Upward Expedition, which is sort of this, I guess, kids' cartoons sort of thing about goblins and their upward expedition. But there's also an adult thing that I'm not quite ready to talk about called Hell Heist. That would kind of be my dream at the moment.
Hell Heist. Ooh, that sounds great. It reminds me of hearing Hell Heist. It reminds me of, what was it? There was a podcast I used to listen to. I forget what the name is off the top of my head. And I feel bad for forgetting it or whatnot. But they would basically like come up with a random concept or be given like a random concept and come up with basically a script for it or like a perspective, pitch for it within an hour. They literally had an hour to pitch this thing. And one of the ideas that they had was Heaven Heist, to where they
the bastards.
Yeah, well, it's one of those like they went off of, I think it was like the Chinese basis when it comes to heaven or whatnot, like like burning like silver, like paper dollars or something like that, like little paper, origami or whatnot, and that like went into like the afterlife or whatnot. So these people found a way to like get into heaven, try to take all that stuff and give it to like their reincarnated selves of them in the next life or something along the lines of that. So like hearing how you would take that but flip it to where it was Hell Heist or whatnot, you have my curiosity, Maxwell. You have it.
Excellent.
But sadly, we gotta get down from the dream scenario. Unfortunately, we have to get back to reality, and I'll ask the. I know. I hate myself for bringing it there too, and I'll ask the ever so generic question: where do you hope to see yourself in, say, 5 to 10 years from now?
I would like to be. I don't even know. Right now I'm like, I gotta find something to do with myself, right. And I gotta find some way to keep these squirrels out of my garden.
Yep.
And I gotta get a floor in my bedroom. And once I take care of those 3 things, I'll know.
Okay. I mean,
doesn't look.
It's a very obtainable, like, short-term future. I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's what I'm going for right now.
Extremely valid. As we start to wind down the episode, I just have one last question I want to ask you, Maxwell. Obviously, you are deeply entrenched in art. You have been basically your whole life, from what you've been telling me. Like I said before, back whenever you were young, watching those Saturday morning cartoons and such, to here you are now having a hand in, being so many people's childhoods on their own. How important is art, not just for you, but for the world as a whole?
I think it's really important. I feel like art, it's a reflection of our culture, if not our culture itself. So that's kind of been one of the weird things about the AI stuff, not to completely divert the conversation, but just like if we're not the ones making art, like, who is defining our culture? Because that's what we're supposed to be doing. So I feel like people need to be looking at art and making their own art to commentate on that art, and that's kind of, I don't know what progress means anymore, but that's sort of a version of societal progress. Is that's kind of how we learn about each other and where we're at and other cultures. So I think it's pretty important. I might be crazy.
Well, if that considers you crazy, then put me in the insane asylum because I think that is wonderfully worded, if I do say so myself. Um, it doesn't help that I say put me in the insane asylum and I got my face painted like a bootleg Joker right now.
I still just see the 2 olives, and it makes me want a martini. So.
You see, it's not just me.
Fine. Hi, I'm Olives the Clown. How's everyone doing today?
Not a bad name.
That is all the questions I have for you, Maxwell. I've already showered you with a whole bunch of praise, but I want to shower you with a little bit more because it's my podcast. I do whatever I want. Actually, I'll ask Tipsy, do you want to go first and shower some, or do you want me to go first and then you bring us home?
I'm saved best for last, so you should save me for last because I'm the best.
Fine. No, in all seriousness, Maxwell, like I said many times before, and I'll say it again, like I have been ecstatic for this interview, not just for the fact that, hey, I get an opportunity to talk to someone that's had a hand in the industry and done some incredible stuff on his own, but like I said before, your show was one of the things that helped shape my childhood. Like, I know you probably heard that from a lot of people at this point, but like genuinely, like, as weird and as wacky and as absurd as this concept is or whatnot, it made me love the weird stuff in life. It made me appreciate the weird humor that's out there, and it made me, love and appreciate the weird, macabre aspects of that stuff and find the silliness in it all. Whether it's with that, Evil Con Carne, and everything else they talked about, including the stuff that, you're developing or have tried to develop and tried to get out there, as frustrating as it may be. I just want to say at the very least, I love and appreciate that passion, that creativity that you have. And I sincerely wish that you got those opportunities that you absolutely deserve, because I know if you're given the opportunity, you could do some more fantastic stuff. It doesn't just need to be the guy that did The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, because you are so much more than that. You are Maxwell Atoms, a fantastic animator, a fun person to chat with, and I cannot tell you how much I appreciate you getting those opportunities beforehand and continuing to do what you can to either earn those opportunities or develop your own, because you deserve every opportunity you can get. At least for me, I just want to say thank you for what you do. Thank you for what you've done. Thank you for helping me become who I am, because I really do love and appreciate it. And I know I'm one of thousands, if not millions at this point, that is rooting for you. But I'm going to be right by your side on that sideline, rooting for you every single step of the way, hoping that you get those opportunities because you deserve it. Thank you so much, Maxwell.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think you got it. Like everything you took away from the cartoon was what I was trying for. So I feel good about myself. Thank you.
Well, in that case, hopefully Tipsy can help reinforce that. So Tipsy, what you got?
Lay it on me, Tipsy.
Well, I will say this, and I'll try to make it as short and sweet. I have grew up at a very young age, have been introduced to horror, and that's not really something to brag about. You really shouldn't do that. But, when I was introduced to Billy and Mandy, that really, honestly, and I have seen some, like, crazy horror films and stuff like that, but that show really made me appreciate the genre more. If not, that really intrigued me more into animation, actually. I remember I had to do a thesis paper before I actually have to do my senior thesis film back in my college days, where they ask you, like, what media or what show or in general is the inspiration to your film or who you are as an artist. And I honestly said it was Billy and Mandy for me. Billy and Mandy, even with the very funny sense of humor, haha, there was a lot of dark moments in there, and it was that combination itself that really made me appreciate the show itself, because it made me who I am, and it made me be who I am as a storyteller too. And I think about that show too when I make my when I have my indie project, The Evil Little Thing, as well. I try to implement a little bit of that as well. So I just want to say thank you, Maxwell Atoms, for And I know you hear this from everybody, but thank you so much for taking the time to be here to talk to us. But not only just that, basically being responsible for making me the way I am. And honestly, I couldn't thank you enough for making me the storyteller that I am today and making me appreciate both the humor side and the horror side.
Yeah, thank you guys. Yeah, I don't take showers of affection very well.
Well,
But no, I appreciate it so much, and like for me, it's always been one of the really cool things is it's been a really symbiotic relationship with the fans, and it's like this show literally would not have existed if people hadn't voted it into existence. So
Right.
I'm always really thankful to have such cool fans.
You hear that, Tipsy? He called us cool.
he called me cool.
I mean, blanket statement.
Blanket statement. I
We
see
don't have to
that.
get crazy.
And by the way, the reason why I brought this here or whatnot, Tipsy mentioned the Evil Lil thing, which is her like little horror comedy concept that she's been developing or whatnot. This is the little main character. His name is Nemo. He is a demon goat.
He's adorable.
Okay.
But
I'll check that out.
But regardless, I know we've talked enough about all this incredible stuff you've done. We cannot thank you enough. If people want to see more about this stuff, if they're not already for one reason or another, go ahead and plug your stuff for the people at home. Where can people find more about Maxwell Atoms?
I got the social medias. I got a Patreon where I'm Maxwell Atoms. Right this very moment, I'm selling some Billy and Mandy stuff on eBay where I'm Grimbot, GR1MB0T. And then, yeah, I'm the real Maxwell Atoms on Instagram. I'm occasionally on Tumblr. And that's about it. I think that's about it. Sometimes I go to the grocery store.
There you go. I'll be sure to have all those links in the description below. Not the address to your grocery store. I want to give you at least a little bit of privacy more than anything else.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I'll be sure to have all those links and then some in the description below. Do you have any final words before we sign off?
Thank you. I love you all. I've been farting the whole time.
How dare no? To be fair, I'm pretty sure I've let one or two go as well, so you're not alone. Oh, Tipsy, don't give us that face.
Yes, I am gonna give that face.
Sorry, Tipsy.
Tipsy, do you have any last words before I sign us off?
Help.
And with that, all I have left to say is for the people at home, if you can, please pay your artists.
Same with animation.
Tell me what's wrong, tell me its parts in motion. Sing me a song, tell me your eyes can all open. Show me it all, pick me up in the car you drove when you used to call. Show me it all.
Thank you so much for sticking around to the end. If this is your first time listening, I greatly do appreciate it. Wow. Wow. I got to talk to Maxwell Atoms. We got to talk to Maxwell Atoms. Like, I know, like, at the end of the day, he's a human. But it's still kind of surreal considering the impact he kind of had on me growing up. Maxwell, if you've gotten up to this point, once again, thank you for taking the time to be here. This was a fantastic conversation, one that I'm never going to forget. I mean, like I kind of illustrated throughout the episode, like the amount of hours I've spent watching just episodes of Billy and Mandy, and all the other stuff that he had a hand in, and to get the opportunity to talk to the guy, like, it's up there with talking to Joe Horn, the director of Class of 3000, as some of the most surreal moments I've ever gotten on this podcast. It's still just kind of it's it's still really like, I don't know. It's weird. It really is. Especially seeing kind of the condition of you know, the industry as a whole, especially where he is in that industry or whatnot, and the impact he's had on that industry. And to see him at this point, I kind of illustrated this at the you know, tail end of our conversation, but you know, the fact that it's getting to the point to where Maxwell has to sell off a bunch of stuff from his years of work just to pay his mortgage. You know, it's up there with, you know, the voice of Brack working at Amazon, or the voice actor of Frylock having to constantly do GoFundMes and stuff. These guys contributed in major ways. These guys left an impact on so many people over several generations at this point. And yet here they are struggling to get by. It doesn't feel right. I mean, that's why I always say, when every opportunity I get, you know, hashtag Sam with animation. It's not just because of the people that are currently in it. It's because of the people that have had an impact in it. Every single last one of them, no matter how big or how small. They deserve the right to be compensated and appreciated through and through for their contributions to this industry. This industry entertains and inspires thousands, if not millions of people. And yet here we have the big, you know, corporations just being like, here, take this. We want our tax cuts. They deserve so much more. They really do. That's why that's why I wanted to have Maxwell on, partially, because, you know, hearing that story, especially of all places, hearing it from Salty DK Dan. No offense to Salty, love you, dude. You're a fantastic person on your own. I'd love to have you on this podcast at some point. But like, having to hear through him about what's going on, it shouldn't come down to that. Again, these people have contributed so much to entertain and inspire so many people, and they deserve so much more. And I hope that with what you guys are doing as well, whether you're trying to get into the industry, do something on your own, or just go down a completely different path, like, at the end of the day, always know your worth. All right? Because if you're taking the opportunity to put so much of your love, your passion, your energy, your blood, sweat, and tears to do something that you love, that other people love and appreciate, like, don't sell yourself short. You guys deserve everything and then some for taking the opportunity to do that. And I hope that there are changes in the grand scheme of things that allows those people to truly be loved and appreciated and compensated more than anything. But just know that with everyone, with whatever they do, especially you, Maxwell, know that we love and appreciate everything that you've done. And know that there are people out there that are going to forever remember the impact that you guys have had